Hey, gentlemen, thank you for having me on. I just wanted to kind of share, from this perspective, I've performed neurological exams on quite a few patients over my years. And when you're looking for somebody who's either had head trauma or maybe has had a stroke, even people with dementia, which is another form of neurological damage, there's certain things that you look for. And my wife, when she saw Errol Spence enter the ring, she asked me, she's like, he looks like he's on marijuana. And I told her, I said, he has residual neurological damage from his car accident. That people have commented on this, but people, if you don't have the experience doing this, you're not going to pick up on it. So one of the things when you're doing a neurological exam on somebody, you look at, there's like a glassy look to a person's eyes when they have either a concussion or they have advanced stages of dementia. And if you compare video of Errol Spence before his accident, just do a little assessment on the eye exam of what I'm telling you. It is apparent. I mean, it is embarrassing how obvious it is that he's significantly compromised. So what I would say to this is just think back to what they did to Muhammad Ali when they let him fight with Parkinson's. People will let somebody get into the ring even though there is obvious issues with their ability to perform in a boxing match. So further evidence of this is listen to his speech patterns, start comparing his speech patterns before his accident to after. There is a distinct difference in his enunciation. I know part of that is because he has dentures, but even just listen to how he is formulating his words, his thought process. He's much, much slower. Now, another component to a sign of advanced neurological damage is a loss of balance. That's why as people age, primary cause of injury for older people is falls. And that's because as the nervous system degrades, the communication to the musculoskeletal system is also compromised. So a lot of the signs that people associate with aging as people get into the 30s in boxing or even sports, it's the first thing to go is your neurological system. So when people talk about timing, and if you kind of listen to what even Spence was saying, Spence doesn't even know what he's saying. He's just commenting that. He's like, oh, my timing was off. My timing was off. That is because his brain is not the same. Now, of course, you can add on to that alcohol abuse, sure. Dropping weight, water dehydration, of course. But he should have never been allowed to get into the boxing match. All you have to do is look at Ugas's fight. You can see a difference in the way he moves. Now, unfortunately, from the neck down, because he's a physical specimen, he looks amazing. But from the neck up, he is not the same person. So when you look at how badly he was beaten, I can't recall another fight where Crawford looked that good. That's not an accident. When you look at Errol Spence and how he couldn't defend himself, even the first knockdown was a blow where? It was a blow to his lower chin and to his neck. You throw somebody off their core stability, and they can't recover. He looked very clumsy last night. But once again, this is just something I don't think people want to admit because people are emotionally invested in the fight, emotionally invested in boxing. This, to me, honestly, it's very sad. It should have never been allowed to happen. But that's the history of boxing.
Well, let me ask you this. First of all, have you called in before into this show?
It's been a few years, gentlemen. Yes.
I think you called. Weren't you an expert? I thought you were an expert on roids. I think that was you who'd called in.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. There.
You guys used to call me Dr. 805. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, Dr. 805. But wait a minute. So you're did you say you're a neurologist as well? Is that your area of expertise as well, or?
So my specialty is gerontology. So I have specialized in medicine and taking care of elderly people and also people going through the aging process. So I've taken care of many people with dementia, many people with neurological issues like ALS, multiple sclerosis, taking care of people with strokes. So because of that, over my career, I've done a lot of neurological exams. And it was so obvious to me. I'm talking within seconds. Even my wife, who's in the medical field, she picked up on it. She's like, what's wrong with him? I said, he has neurological damage. I said, my God, he should not even be in this fight. And what happens is when you dehydrate, which people are aware, you're depleting water. That's ultimately what you're doing. because since the body is 70 to 75% water, so is the composition of muscle tissue. Now, the way people make weight, and for some people listening, I'm sure they know this already, but the goal is to try and pull as much water out of the muscle tissue. That is the only place you can really make a significant difference in weight. That's why you can drop 15 to 20 pounds in a week. But how that is accomplished is primarily by depleting the glycogen, which binds water to it. So glycogen holds water in a 1-to-3 ratio. So 1 gram of glycogen holds 3 grams of water to it. When you pull the glycogen out, water leaves the muscle tissue. Well, what also happens is you start losing electrolytes. So evidence of this is anybody's ever watched a marathon race and they've seen a runner cramp up and have to leave the race. What has happened is that they've burned through the glycogen, which is stored glucose. And then once that's burned up, the water has to displace the water out of the muscle tissue. It just moves automatically. When that happens, the last thing to occur is a movement of electrolytes. So your sodium, your potassium, your magnesium. Now this gets complicated. It has to do with water balance and electrolyte functions in the body. So that's it. The body has to do this. If it doesn't, the body will die. So when you're cutting weight on somebody, especially with somebody with neurological damage, the consequences are even worse, because in the rehydration process, one of the last places to rehydrate is the brain. So when somebody like Errol Spence is cutting weight, it is going to exacerbate underlying problems that he has, which was evident last night. And I know people don't want to say this because people have been looking to the site, but you're talking about somebody who medically should have never been. I would not have cleared him. If I was doing the medical clearance on him, I would have denied him.
I was going to ask you that. So from your, just to recap, from your professional opinion, as a physician, you said you saw the signs of him coming out and saying, wow, he looks glassy-eyed, this man is suffering from the residual effects of
Right.
head trauma. So if a doctor from the Nevada State Athletic Commission, or whatever commission, whether it was in Texas or whatever, they must have seen this then, right?
Of course. But as we know throughout history, even in professional football and in boxing, there is a financial motive, and not everyone is ethical. So they will find a doctor who is ethically fluid and will sign off on this.
Fluid.
There are very unethical physicians.
That's a great euphemism, by the way. That's a great euphemism. Ethically fluid, not compromised, not fucking corrupt. Yeah, ethnically fluid. Yeah, guys, what do you think about what Dr. 805 just broke down here? I mean, that's a professional right there, breaking it down.
Well, the little bit that I know of stuff that I'm not an expert in, but I do know about health and nutrition based off of being a cook in the military, and we had to take nutrition training every year. He obviously said it much better than I ever could, but it goes along with the breakdowns of what we know about protein synthesis and things like that. Jimmy, I know you know a lot about this through your bodybuilding, but when it comes time to, we have to, especially when we're stationed in very hot areas, like when I was down in Key West, part of the nutrition they went over with us is we don't just give the guys buckets of water. It has to be, Gatorade or something with high electrolytes for that reason. And they broke it down nowhere near as good as Doc did right here, but they did break it down. And everything he said from what I've been, the training I've had over the 20 years of being a cook is spot on. If I have one question for you, Doc, real quick, based off of being a boxing fan, doctor aside, do you think that Bud still would have won this fight prior to the car wreck and the rest of the trauma?
Okay. That is a hypothetical, but I can tell you, can you tell me another performance from Terence Crawford that looked like that last night?
John Molina?
That he was that dialed in? He's always dialed in. I thought he was that dialed in against...
No. I'm talking about where
Ndongo.
His opponent, it was so lopsided.
Oh, I understand what you're saying, Doc, and I'm not trying to take away everything you said about that. I was just trying to say, prior to the accident, do you think that obviously this had something to do with it? I'm saying, do you think that it could have? Do you think it would have been more competitive yet, or who would you have picked prior to everything that you stated?
Okay, so my response to that would be this: in athletics, you're always trying to assess the status of your opponent, and this goes back even into the world of gambling. they're always looking to see if there's information about, does this person have an injury, or is this person have a drug problem, to try and, determine how they're going to bet, to see, is the opponent compromised, are they weak? It would be hard for me to predict because, once again, this is a hypothetical. You have to look at, Terence Crawford knew the issues with Errol Spence. This is not a secret. And there's more that people are aware of on the inside of Errol Spence's camp than the boxing community is aware of. Like, look, for example, what I just observed.